Yo guys, and thanks for tuning in once again to hopefully a little helpful series that I'm trying to do here to show you guys how to basically record your footage of the games you're playing and how to best upload them, render them, etc. so you can get them on YouTube without too much bother. This, the first episode I covered the Story and just how to record it with the best settings. This time I'm covering Sony Vegas Pro. I'm using version 10. This is what I use to edit my footage personally. You can use After Effects, you can use other programs as well. This is not the only one, but it's the one that I personally use. So I'm basically just going to show you how to go about using it. What I do is I keep mine relatively simple. There's nothing particularly complicated in terms of the settings, and for the most part my settings will remain the same. So I come in and my settings are already there. I open up a file and I can do whatever I want with it without having to reset all my settings. So what I do is, if you go to File, Properties, here's where you set the settings for your videos. And what you can do though is you can tell it to start every single video with these settings that you choose. Okay, so you want to start with the dimensions. You either have 1280, 720, or you have 1920 if you want to record in 1080p. That is entirely up to you. I leave the field order on none, progressive scan, and the pixel aspect ratio to 1. I leave that at 1, and I have the frame rate. Sometimes I have it at 29, but for the most part you ideally want it on 30, which is for UK. It says 25, but I personally would leave it on 29 or 30. The pixel format, you can leave that at 8-bit. Full resolution rendering quality, always want that on best. And I leave the motion blur on Gaussian. I turn deinterlace method to none. And that's pretty much it. You can tell it where to put your pre-rendered files to. I leave that as standard. But what you can then do then, for instance, I saved mine under a template named YouTube. So if you click save, put in your name, click save, you can save it to something that you want. So you might want to have maybe 2 or 3 different ones depending on the project you're doing. So I'll have mine as YouTube, and I'll click start all new projects with these settings and apply. And then it'll always now have, I want to change that back to square, there we go. It will always now have these settings when I start Sony Vegas, and that's what I want. It just makes life easy for me. It means I don't have to worry about forgetting what I'm doing. You know, sometimes you might come onto Sony Vegas and you've forgotten to set something, which is it's just not what you want. So that's the best thing to do to make sure it always starts every single time. So I've dragged in a clip here just of a random CS game just to show you really how to go about using it. There's a couple of things that can make your life a lot easier. I don't know all the tips and tricks of Vegas. You know, there's probably maybe easier ways to go about things. I'm just going to show you some of the ones that I use on a regular basis, and hopefully you'll find useful too. When you drag a file into Vegas, you're going to have a separate video track and a separate audio track. So this is just a game that I was playing on Counter-Strike. What you can do, and which I found particularly useful, if you scroll through the video, you can split the video, which makes life easier when you're editing. If you press S on your keyboard, what it's going to do is it's going to stop the videos there, and it's going to create 2 separate files. That's one of the main things I actually use for creating videos. Now, it doesn't delete the file. So for instance, if I go to this file here and drag the end here, the file that I cut off is still there. All it's done is it's taken that point and it's basically cut it off at the end. But you can still say you think, oh crap, I needed the I'm 2 seconds, 10 seconds too short. Open that back up and you can go a little bit further into the file. When when you're messing around with a file like this, you know when the end of the file is or the beginning by this little notch here. If you see this little notch, that means that the file has ended. So for instance, if I go a little bit further like this, all it's doing is it's just repeating the file again. So if I go to that notch, that means it's the beginning of the file. And you see if I go too far this way, there's another notch, that means it's the end of this particular video file. So you know really if you're stretching it too far. What you also can do is, for instance, if I create 2 files here, let's say these are 2 completely separate clips, and I want to merge them together. I don't want them to go and just, for instance, go straight after each other. So I don't want them to I don't want them to just go one clip and then another clip. So if I make this different to show you what I mean, if I click play now, this clip is just going to cut straight into another one without any warning whatsoever, and I might not want to do that. If you just drag this file over the next file, you'll see this little time come up. This is the amount of fade in that you're going to be using. So I can fade it in, let's say 2 seconds. So if I click play now, you'll see that the file slowly fades into the next one, and it makes transitions a lot easier. But what you can also do is you can go into transitions here, and there are tons of transitions that you can mess about with. You can have spiral. If I load this one on here now, you can see if I click play now, the next one will spiral onto the screen, etc, etc. So you can mess about with those and change how you transition between certain videos, which is something that's really useful. One of the things you always want to do though, when I load a video file into Vegas, this is the very first thing I do. I click on File, Properties, I uncheck Maintain Aspect Ratio. Okay. Normally when a file's loaded, it'll have these two settings. It'll have Maintain Aspect Ratio and Smart Resample. Now, as you can see, when it's maintaining the aspect ratio, there's these two black bars down the side, which I don't want. So I'll click Properties, and I'll uncheck that. What I also want to do is I want to uncheck this resample, because what resample does is it kind of smooths out the video a little bit, but that can make certain areas of the video a bit blurry. You want to disable that to get the crispest possible picture. So those are the two settings I will always change when I load in a video file. So I recommend you probably do the same. There are a couple of other things you can mess about with. If you go to Video Event Pan and Crop, this is something that you can use to zoom in. You can zoom into certain areas of the video. You can zoom out. You can create funky sort of pan and crop type things. You can rotate it as well. So maybe I can rotate the image if I want to. So you can do all sorts of things with pan and crop. That's a cool tool to mess about with. In the same sort of breath, you can also use what's called track motion. Now, track motion can be used to make the actual image you're looking at a little bit smaller. For instance, if you want a picture-in-picture, you may see on some of my videos at the end, I have like a video of the next video for you to click on. All I do is I will make a video like this, and I'll make it smaller, and I'll put it in, and that's all you need to do. It's something that is particularly useful, to be honest with you, the video motion, so I recommend having a play around with that as well. Something that I don't really use that much at the moment, but is quite useful, is what's called a velocity envelope. Okay, if you go onto a video file like this, so let's just delete this one and we'll just play around with this one. If I give you, let's say the first, let's have a look, this is about 10 seconds, give or take. So this is about 10 seconds of footage at the beginning of a round, just normal speed. I can add in a velocity envelope, and what you start to get now is this line here. So I've got this line, and this line is the speed at which the clip is playing. So if I change this and move the line up, it's now playing at 300% its normal speed. So it's going a lot faster. So it's now going super, super mega fast. But what I can do is I can add a point in on this line. So if I right click on the line, click add point, and if I add a second point, I can then move this point down. And I can move this down to say 38%. What this is going to do now is it's going to play this part at 300, but when it reaches this line, it's going to go back to what I've set at, so at 38. Now this is useful for if you want to fast forward a certain section of your video, or you want to slow down a certain section of your video. So if I say, let's put this to 17, there we go. So I'm going to play this, it's going to play at normal speed, but when it reaches this certain point, it's going to slow down to 20%. But what you've got to remember is this will mean that the video will have to be expanded, because obviously there's a lot more video now because it's going at a slower speed. And then maybe I want the video to go back to its normal speed then, so I'll add in another point. But I want to add in a second point that I can bring up here, set that to normal velocity, and then the clip will start playing at its normal speed going forward. And that's something that's can be really useful. I don't really use it very much at the minute, but it is something that can be useful and something that you might want to use in videos. There is certain plugins you can get for Vegas as well that will. You may have seen on YouTube some of the some clips have really slowed down footage. Now you can use the slowdown on here, but it's not always fantastic. There is certain plugins you can get for Vegas that mean you can go ultra slow, and it will keep the sort of like the sharpness of the picture, if you like. So that's something that you can also look into. Now, what we can also do is, if I just delete these, I'll just set them to normal velocity. What you can also do is you can add effects onto your videos. If I right click on a clip and go Video Event Effects, there's plenty of effects here I can add on. These are just the default ones without any plugins in, but there are extra ones that you can download and install if you want to. So let's try, let's say, film grain. Now, I've added on a film grain here. What I can do is I can change the values. I can change the chroma values. Well, that's pretty film effecty, if you like. Obviously, I'm just doing this very quickly just to show you, but there are plenty of ones that you can mess about with. I can then go back into it. I can maybe get rid of that. And if I click this little button here, I can add another one instead. Maybe I want to change it to, this is one I'm looking for, saturation. There we go. If I add on saturation, I didn't actually add it, I can then basically change the colors completely. So I can really saturate these colors if I want to. Whack everything up to maximum. Ooh, that's going to hurt your eyes. So that's really going to hurt your eyes. So that's basically what you can do with film effects. There's plenty of them. You can mess about with them, you know, and play around with them to try and get, you know, what you want and what you feel is best for your video. And that's pretty much it, really. One other thing to do with fade in that you can also do as well is, let's say you do have a clip on its own, but you still want it to fade in. If you click the left hand or the right hand side of the clip, and this works for audio as well, it changes to this little icon here that you can see, like this half or quarter circle. If you hold that down, you can then fade in a transition or fade in a part of video. You see the line that's coming in there? That means that this video is going to fade out. It works with audio as well, so that means the audio will gradually fade out. So if I play this now, the video will gradually fade to black. So that's the same as a transition, but it just means if you don't have a video file that you want to transition it into, you can use that instead. Over on the left hand side, you've got volume controls. So this audio, I can set the volume low to high. I can also set the orientation to left to right. I can mute a complete channel, whether that's audio or video. Maybe I'm just working with one channel. The solo button here, if I click that, it'll mean that it'll only run the channel that I'm actually clicking. The track motion that we've covered there. And there are a couple of other things here that I don't really tend to use that much, if I'm honest with you. If you're on the video section here, if you scroll in with your mouse wheel or scroll out, you can enlarge or make small the timeline. And this is the main part that you're going to be dealing with here. You can also right click on any of these and create a new video track. Or if you right click on the audio one, you can create a new audio track. So if you want to insert an audio here with different properties, maybe it's got a different volume, or you want to create a different video track that's maybe smaller. So for instance, we made this smaller. This affects the whole video track. So maybe you want to create another one. Then you can create new video, create new audio, and you can have as many video and audio tracks as you want. So hopefully that will get you started. I mean, there are plenty of other things that you can do with Vegas. It is a very advanced program. But I've kind of tried to pick out a few things that I thought would be very useful, and hopefully that will be. The next time we're going to just cover rendering and how to best render your video for the best settings. But I hope you find it useful, so like and subscribe, guys, and as always, I'll catch you on the next one.